we don't have a revenue line typically. We still aim to, of course, measure attendance and measure, the number of people going into the club in general versus the number of people going into the studio. And you're kind of trying to estimate that percentage. But without a doubt, we know that those individuals attending classes tend to visit the club more often. So they're typically spending more money in, the pro shop, for example, or the smoothie bar, what have you. And they keep their membership for longer and they refer more friends. So they're a golden ticket, so to speak, when you look at the different kinds of members that you might have. Those that attend classes are going to be more valuable.
This is All Things Fitness and Wellness, hosted by Chrissy Van. Together, we're uniting industry thought leaders and fitfluencers on the mission to inspire innovation and encourage people to live a life fit and well. On today's episode, we welcome back Ingrid Knight-Cohee to the show. This July, Ingrid was named IDEA Fitness Leader of the Year. She's the founder of the class forum at MISINGI and the director of fitness classes at Fitness World Canada. In this episode, Ingrid discusses the growing recognition among industry leaders that to attract new members, the fitness industry must meet people where they are. Low impact and approachable formats are at the forefront, like the surge in Pilates and how group fitness classes naturally create social hubs. We'll also dive into the recent findings from the Lululemon Global Wellness Report and the Les Mills Blueprint for Instructor Recruitment. Before we get to it, be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcast episodes weekly featuring industry thought leaders and influencers. I'm your host, Chrissy Van, and this is ATFW. Well, I am so thrilled to be joined by Ingrid Knight-Cohee, and you joined us before. You were telling us all about MISINGI bringing this incredible new format to life, but now you're returning with some exciting news. Tell people what happened this summer.
Oh my, yes, it's been an exciting summer. Thanks for having me back. But I was at the IDEA World Convention and was given the recognition of the 2024 IDEA Fitness Leader of the Year.
And this is where you're recognized by all your peers in the industry. How have things kind of changed and evolved since that date? Because it opens up a lot of opportunities for you as well.
Well, it is a huge honor, definitely a moment that I'm still floating high on, a wonderful community that, is already very generous and supportive, but this just kind of elevated things. Huge recognition, huge, moment of opportunity to thank everyone close to me. I've had a 30-year career, so, that opportunity to thank my friends and family and my colleagues for ongoing support and inspiration. It was just really special. So things that have happened since, it's really just, I would say it's opened up doors to, other award winners and connecting to them and what they're doing in the industry, which is, of course, forward thinking and cutting edge. And on a personal level, I would say, where I might have been before to say, I think I can add some value to what you're doing. Now I'm kind of, have that added level of confidence to say, I know I can add value to what you're doing, and I'm happy to participate and contribute and collaborate.
Well, that's why I'm so happy that we have you today, because I know you're going to be adding a ton of value to this conversation. It was funny because Ingrid and I actually had this in the calendar and planned. And at time of recording, there have been some really fascinating studies that have highlighted the importance of the group fitness space. So we are going to go there, but I can't start the conversation without knowing, because you have brought a new format back to life. So for those that maybe missed the conversation or could use a refresh, what is MISINGI? And tell me a little bit about how it's going.
Yeah, MISINGI is my signature class format that I like to call as the world's first Afrocentric functional movement and primal mobility practice. So it's a little something that I put together based on just a multitude of ideas that I had percolating. But yes, it's definitely come to life. We have about 15 instructors teaching at 10 locations, and members are experiencing it and loving it. And I'm hearing just phenomenal feedback. So it's very exciting.
And before we kind of hopped on here, we were talking about one of the studies here in regards to yoga, Pilates, and I was just at Beyond Active Americas in New York City. Every single person was talking about Pilates, which is funny because we know it's not new. It's just coming in with a vengeance. The stat, 46% of men now getting into the Pilates scene out of ones that were polled for this Lululemon Global Wellbeing Report. And it's that low impact fitness that's really being the attractant. Now, for yourself, as somebody that's orchestrating within fitness world, in regards to putting classes on, why is a format like MISINGI and really such a positive pairing? Because there's a trifecta that you speak to that really does deliver when it comes to bringing these types of programs to life.
Yeah, I like that word trifecta, because when you're thinking from a programming perspective, you also want to think about the practitioner's perspective and the participant's perspective. So it's kind of these three main stakeholders, so to speak, and the things that I took into account with developing MISINGI was, again, those three perspectives. From a programmer's perspective, you're wanting to add things that are very inclusive and accessible on your schedule, things that are diverse and new and interesting. From a practitioner's perspective, the instructors, you're wanting them to be able to deliver something that's very, easy to figure out and deliver, but also has that creative component. And then lastly, from the participant's perspective, you, again, want something that they feel is enjoyable and doable. So I think MISINGI kind of checks all of those boxes. It's really a practice that is based on 11 fundamental movements. So very simple and clear, but also we kind of are inspired by the elements of earth, wind, and fire as representative of 3 levels of intensity. So you kind of have those options as a participant, and you can kind of pick and choose what intensity level you desire.
What have been the big learnings in regards to getting new instructors learning a new format? Because you've really been building this from the ground up. So that's been a huge part of not only getting people on board, but you kind of have to educate them over the fact that this is a new and exciting format that's come to life.
For sure. And, that's definitely been part of the challenge and the learning curve is, I've created this format and this unfamiliar word, MISINGI. That's the first question, like, what is that? What does that mean? So there's that kind of awareness and educational component. But really it comes down to just making sure that my staff are exposed to it, giving lots of sample classes and workshops and giving them a teaser to say, hey, this is what this is all about. And once they try it and experience it, that's when you kind of get that interest and that hook and that awareness that, wow, this is really, there's a lot of benefits to moving in this way. And instructors are always wanting to provide new and interesting things for their classes. So, that part of that side of things has been fun to watch.
Yeah, no doubt, because obviously not only are you bringing a whole new format to life, but you also work for Fitness World Canada. So maybe explain to people, because this is a big operation. You're a little bit busy. It's amazing that you're actually carved out the time to be able to sit here today. What are you in charge of there?
Oh, boy. Well, Fitness World is, as you know, we've got 16 locations and over 150 instructors, and we deliver about 500 classes a week.
Just a few.
Yeah, it's fun, but never a dull moment, and lots going on. But I get to access over 90,000 members through this amazing team that delivers all of these classes. So it's a fantastic opportunity.
Well, and at time of recording, we just bid farewell to summer. Sadness if you're me, but I do like the fall season is where a lot of people really recenter around their goals, which does create an opportunity for fitness businesses to create a landscape where people are going to stick to their new goals to round out the year. What role does group fitness play in that member retention? Because I know everyone's kind of like, how do we keep people coming back?
Mm-hmm. It's such an interesting time, and it actually, from a volume perspective, we tend to see more volume in the fall and even in January because for many of those reasons. Some folks have been active all summer and they want to maintain that activity level. Some folks have fallen off the fitness train over the summer due to holidays or family visits, what have you. But they're getting back into a regular routine. The school schedule, of course, prompts us to get back into predictable schedules. But I think also it's those folks who haven't been exercising regularly are seeing now, oh, we're closing out 2024 and I made those goals back in January. Let me kind of get back in there. And then to layer in with all of that is, we're heading into cold and flu season, and hopefully folks know by now, exercising regularly is one of the best ways to build your immune system. So I always say to my team, though, whatever the motivating factors are, as soon as someone walks into our doors, get them connected to a class, because that engagement leads to going regularly and meeting people. And when you meet people and make friends, that's the glue that keeps you coming back. You're accountable to other people. You look forward to seeing those other people. You connect with an instructor. So yeah, classes are definitely a strong way and a proven way to adhere to an exercise program.
Yeah. And I mean, this will excite you and you'll find it no surprise doing what you do. But one of the number one conversations at Beyond Active, obviously everyone's excitable about AI and the different tech that's entering the space. But what it came back to every single time was the simplest, and it was community. And this recognition with a lot of people feeling lonely, like, oh, our gym spaces really are these social hubs. And to your point, group fitness immediately, even if you don't converse. I remember I interviewed this woman and it was about, she did a study, it was on children, but it was like if a group is moving to music, even if you don't converse or have a conversation with another individual, what it hits in your brain and boosts, she said it much more eloquently, but like it's scientifically proven to
Isn't
fill
that
that
amazing?
bucket, right? And so as we head into 2025 on that tech note, you know, hybrid fitness, we've seen some players in the space either peter off post-pandemic, but it's still a little bit part of the equation. What trends do you see happening in regards to group fitness when it comes to comparing that in-person model to the hybrid model?
Yeah, it's an interesting evolution that continues to change, but I think at the end of the day, technology, as it performs in every space, it's just going to continue to get more and more sophisticated and more integrated into what we do and how we do it. But I think classes in the virtual space, you know, they're here to stay. It's just another avenue to, you know, ideally stay consistent and stay with your workout habit. But I think, you know, again, at the end of the day, people need people. There's nothing like the in-person experience. But as long as you're feeling part of a community, whether that is in-person or virtual, again, it's the glue that is going to really enhance not just physical well-being, but emotional and mental well-being as well.
Well, and I know that generating some of that content is something that you took on a couple of months ago. Huge undertaking. So what were some of the learnings? Because I know so many operators have been in a really similar boat of like, we have to create some diversification because if not, you're missing potentially a huge opportunity to engage with your members. But at the same time, the people power and everything involved to make it happen when resources aren't always at your fingertips.
It's
You're like, this
still,
is sitting close to home.
Yeah, it's an interesting space. Yeah, you know, we have our own app at Fitness World and we provide online classes. We drop a pre-recorded class every day at noon. And I think what we've learned, though, at the end of the day is it's truly those people that have a strong connection with a particular instructor. They want that continued connection. So those are the, you know, we can measure all of the views and those tend to be the highest views. The instructor who has the more popular in-person classes has the more popular online classes. It's not surprising. But I think what will be interesting to see is more sophistication, again, around the actual dynamic. What we're providing right now is just one-way instruction, right? The two-way dynamic is really what makes an in-person class special. So I think we're going to see, I don't know, if it's, you know, your favorite instructor as a hologram in your living room. I think that's coming.
Yeah, well, and I mean, every year we go Health and Fitness Association, formerly IRSA, and you see some of the advancements that already exist in the space that may be too financially cumbersome to actually have in gyms right now, but you're like, the future is coming and it's coming real quickly.
Coming quick, for sure.
I'm curious, just on that note of AI, do you use it in any capacity in your workflows at all?
In a limited capacity right now. I mean, I do, I enjoy writing. So I will lean into AI for, you know, the outline of an article and then build it out from there. So I've found a use in that way. But I think, yeah, there's definitely more ways that I can use it when it comes to scheduling. I think I'm really going to tap into some of those tools.
Yeah, I think 2025 will be interesting because there seems to be a lot of people creating different platforms or tools out of the excitement that generative AI exists. Whereas I think next year will be where we see what streamlines and is actually really actionable and helpful. Because ultimately the goal isn't to get rid of the human element. It's just to add an exponent to the being. I mean, I should rephrase that. In some cases, like especially in some back-end operations, we are going to see different jobs within the fitness spaces that evolve, change, or are eliminated. There's going to be a lot of opportunities and your people power is going to have an exponent on it if you lean in and embrace it. But as we look at 2025, One of the big issues that we had over the last couple of years has been labor shortages. And it was Les Mills that just came out with an article talking about all the incredible benefits of group fitness for the population. But when it comes to attracting talent, missing the mark here.
Mm-hmm.
And mentorship was a huge word that was coming up in that whole study. So you've read it. Let's hear your thoughts.
Well, I mean, I was pleasantly surprised. I think we have a lot of preconceived notions about Gen Z, not always in the in the positive. And as a mother of 2 Gen Zs, I can definitely relate to the challenges that this particular generation has gone through. I think when it comes to leaning into becoming a fitness leader, it's a daunting task for these kids, leading a group of 30, 40 people and fear of not being perfect when they've grown up with Instagram and TikTok and, having to be on display there and not fail is very anxiety inducing. So it stands to reason that having a little more handholding and support and mentorship to guide them to a point where they do feel competent and confident, that makes sense to me.
What are some of the biggest challenges when you are onboarding? Because one of the other things that came out of that study, and I don't have the statistic on hand right now, but it was a pretty high percentage of people that became group fitness instructors. The talent pool was already in the class. So they're coming from a space as a consumer. So how do you guide them through that process to ultimately be the success story at the end of the day?
Yeah, I often say to current instructors who are struggling to try and find subs, I'm like, look at your front row because they're your keeners and they know all the moves, right? They execute them well, typically. So often they just need that nudge to say, hey, you'd be a great instructor. So, we have a lot of success stories through that organic process, actually. And they go through the course and they go through our mentorship. I've had mentorship programs actually for a long time, so it's good to know I've been on the right track. But yeah, I will take a new instructor and partner them with a veteran instructor, and we have a 4 to 6 week program where they kind of co-teach classes and they get that firsthand, feedback and support throughout. But yeah, great way to find talent and keep it, because then they have that strong connection with their mentor throughout.
What would be some of the reasons that somebody pursues that path? And maybe I should say common reasons pursues that path and maybe doesn't follow through the entire process and ultimately become that instructor at the front. What's the barrier there?
I think it varies, but more often than not, people underestimate the work involved. It's, it takes a while to get polished in terms of not only planning your class, but cueing and doing as you're cueing, being aware of music, choreography. Even if it's a HIIT class, it still takes a very high energy coaching skill that is sometimes more than people anticipate.
Yeah, that's fair. And especially, I think it does take just the right personality. But then when it hits, to your point, they're the ones that do garner such a following on the other side. From a social media perspective, because to your point there, you're like the ones that have the biggest following tends to translate both in person and hybrid. Is that something that's really encouraged when you're harnessing talent for people to use their own platforms to promote? And how beneficial is it for the health club itself if they're willing to do that?
Hugely beneficial. And yes, I would say what I tell most instructors, especially when assigned a new class, I'm like, this is your baby, right? This is what you get to nurture and grow. It's not going to happen by itself. You've got to not only teach a great class, but tell people about your great class. Why is it great? Have your 30-second elevator speech and really build it. Invite everyone you know. And then people are curious and like, oh, what's that? What are people doing in that studio? Why is it so packed? I want a part of that. I want to experience that. So it's not just the teaching skill. You've got to be prepared to, again, nurture and grow your class.
And how about the support from like the health club operator themselves? How important is it for them to see how essential? Because here's the thing. It's like, especially in a large gym setting, there's so many different departments going on and different budgets at play for X and Y. So from your perspective, like how imperative is that group fitness component, especially based on what we just talked about in regards to community? And do you feel on a large scale when you're speaking with your colleagues that that's recognized?
A great question. And I think traditionally, I would say no, it hasn't been recognized. And it is a hugely important, impactful component of the success of a club. So I think instructors traditionally have been, it's their part-time passion. It's not necessarily their bread and butter, but it certainly can be because they are a valuable component of driving, attracting, and, retaining members. So that has a dollar value for sure.
Even what we were talking about, I was just doing an interview about the boutique space and how they've always kind of nailed that community element. And I'm like, if you're able to emulate that same thing in the four walls of the gym, before you know it, you have somebody that's going for their lift and then they're hitting their Pilates or their yoga class to help do some low impact, lengthen the muscles. Then they're hitting recovery. And before you know it, you have people that have spent several hours in your space, made friends, and then are coming back. So we get it. The formula works really well. And it's good to see the tide shifting. But heading into 2025, when you speak with your colleagues, what are some of the big challenges from like your lens and perspective for those that are in similar roles as yourself that really they should be preparing and focusing on?
Well, it's, again, to go back to, labor challenges. The role of a fitness class instructor is actually very unique. It's not an 8-hour a day, 40-hour week job. You can't physically do that. So, you are kind of having to manage a lot of part-time staff, and they have their schedules and their family obligations. So, you're kind of working this constant jigsaw puzzle. I'm still leaning in heavily into the hybrid personal training fitness class instructor individual, because I think it's a fantastic partnership of skills, right? You can personal train your clients, you can have your small group training classes, you can have your fitness classes, and all of that can really make for a nice, rounded, balanced lifestyle and schedule. So that's something that I would be encouraging, programmers and directors and people in similar roles to my own. That's the kind of individual that is going to be in the club more often, ready to jump in and sub in an emergency, but also someone very fully invested in building all of their classes and client base.
Yeah. And even to your point earlier where you were talking about the fact they kind of have to be part of that sales team to a degree. Well, that personal training knowledge we know comes with such a huge sales component. And so then before you know it, they're selling themselves on, hey, come to this class. So you can kind of see that's a revenue generator. Because I think that's sometimes the disconnect for a lot of individuals where they're like, well, it's group fitness. You don't actually generate revenue.
Precisely.
You're like, that's a pain point.
It's definitely a pain point. We don't have a revenue line typically, so you're kind of having to, we still aim to, of course, measure attendance and measure, the number of people going into the club in general versus the number of people going into the studio. And you're kind of trying to estimate that percentage. But without a doubt, it's we know that those individuals attending classes tend to visit the club more often. So they're typically spending more money in, the pro shop, for example, or the smoothie bar, what have you. And they keep their membership for longer and they refer more friends. So they're a golden ticket, so to speak, when you look at the different kinds of members that you might have. Those that attend classes are going to be more valuable.
Yeah, it's just harder to track those analytics, which is difficult for sure.
Something AI might be able to do for us.
That's so true, actually, because honestly, some of the tools that we're talking about is all about like member tracking and things like that. So you're maybe by 2025, we're going to revisit this conversation, roll the tape and be like, how'd we do? Well, for yourself, we started the conversation over the fact this has been a huge year for you and you're no stranger to this industry. But I would say, from my view, it seems like you're heading on this really exciting new trajectory. So what are your goals and plans as you yourself are heading into 2025, especially when it comes to building out a format? Because I imagine there has to be quite a bit of strategy to keep building on the momentum that you've already sparked.
Thank you. I mean, I definitely am excited for the new year ahead. It's hard to actually think we're already almost there, but definitely, continued growth plans for MISINGI. I have certification courses and I'm just going to certify more instructors in order to teach more classes and just keep building on the program. I know it's a process. Zumba didn't become a global phenomenon overnight. It took a good 20 years. So I'm on a 5-year plan right now and on track. But I'm embracing any opportunity to share with the world what MISINGI is all about and can do for people. Something I'm excited about for next month, actually, I'm going to be the featured guest instructor at Rancho La Puerta, the world-renowned health and spa.
Incredible.
If you're wanting to throw in a last-minute vacation, October 12th, I'll be teaching MISINGI classes every day at 10 a.m., so that's going to be fun.
That's fabulous. I've had one individual that worked in the wellness space that was raving about the experience there.
Yeah, I've heard amazing things, so I'm definitely excited about that. And then other than that, it might be a little early to say anything, but I am in early conversations with a publisher. So that is something else that maybe a year from now I might be able to unveil something.
Oh, I love a good little tease moment. And knowing you, Ingrid, you'll be unveiling something. There's no other way. It's how you roll. For those, obviously we do have a lot of health club operators, gym owners from different spaces and listeners across the spectrum. And I know that they're always looking to diversify their offerings. And on the note of what you've brought to this platform, I think that it's fair to say, you and I have had the conversations many times. Diversity is something that is greatly lacking in this industry itself. You are like shaking the snow globe aggressively and being like, we're going to change this as we should. And I've done your classes. It's fabulous. So for those that want to learn more about perhaps getting their certifications or let their instructors know, hey, have you heard of this, to check it out, how can they do so?
Oh, fantastic. Well, I do have a website. It's misingimovement.com. And I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, again, MISINGI Movement. So everyone can definitely check out information and class locations from there. But and of course, we're at Fitness World, so check out our class schedules. I personally teach a class every Thursday at 5:30, so come on, check out the original and at our Canby location there.
Well, who would not want to do a class with an award winner? Ingrid Knight-Cohee, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you for having me.
You've just listened to the All Things Fitness and Wellness podcast, hosted by Chrissy Van. Be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcast episodes weekly featuring industry insiders and influencers. Together, we're on a mission for everyone to live a life fit and well.